Hi, I'm Alicia Acuna. I'm here in Tucson, Arizona, in front of Nancy Guthrie's home here. The news conference just wrapped up with law enforcement. It was the sheriff of Pima County, that was the FBI, and some of the headlines there. First of all, they don't have a suspect yet. They don't have a person of interest. They also said they're not ruling anybody out. But I want to also highlight what they said about the ransom note. For those of you who aren't aware, there was a ransom note that was sent to TMZ, and it was sent to a couple of local TV stations this week. In exchange for the safe return of Nancy Guthrie, they want millions of dollars in cryptocurrency. However, we learned today at the news conference that there is a deadline. We knew there was a deadline, we didn't know what it was. The first deadline is at 5 o'clock local time. That's in what, 4.5 hours? In 4.5 hours. If that isn't met by Monday, if they haven't received the millions, then they have threatened to kill Nancy Guthrie. The FBI says they are taking this ransom note very seriously. There were a lot of questions in the news conference about whether they thought it was real, whether they didn't. They also said when it comes to paying ransom, it is ultimately up to the family to decide if they are going to go through with this for this exchange of money. What they have to do on their end in terms of law enforcement is make sure that that's secure, that this isn't someone who really has no connection to Nancy Guthrie, that didn't kidnap her, that didn't take her, but somehow managed to get this information through TMZ, through local reporting, in an attempt to extract money from this family. Okay, so there's that. Now, the other thing they talked about was the timeline. They kind of nailed down some points in the timeline, and I can kind of go through that for you. A lot of people have heard the last time that Nancy Guthrie was seen was on Saturday night around 9:30, 9:45. So what we learned today was that Nancy took an Uber earlier in the day, and I'm going to look at my notes, 5:32. She took an Uber to a local family. They played some games, they had dinner, and then members brought her home, and she got here at 9:48 p.m. That's when she was dropped off. They know that also because at 9:50 p.m. the garage door closed. So pay attention to this. On Sunday, fast forward to Sunday morning, 1:47 in the morning, the doorbell camera disconnects, okay? Go to 2:12 a.m. Sunday morning. Software detects a person on the camera, but she doesn't have a subscription for that. And you know, if anyone has a Ring camera or something like that out there, you know, if you have a subscription, you get a recording, but if you don't, you just get the live event and you can't see it later. So it loops a little bit and then it gets covered up. They've done analysis on this, and they've used tech companies, the FBI is involved. Right now, they cannot get anything from that imaging. They don't even know if it could possibly be an animal. They wouldn't rule that out either. So that was very frustrating. So then, but you go to 2:28. So we went, what did we go? 1:47, doorbell camera disconnects. 2:12, software detects a person on the camera. We don't know if it was a person or who it was, if it was a person. Then you go to 2:28 a.m. Nancy Guthrie's pacemaker app disconnects. Now, from what we understand, because we talked to John Roberts about this, and what he's explained is if it disconnects a lot of times, the way it works is just because that pacemaker has moved away from the system. So it is disconnected in that way. So there's a theory going that you could say that that's when she leaves, when she is no longer here. We don't know that for sure. They wouldn't confirm that. However, then you go to 11:56 a.m. The family starts to check in on Nancy because they've heard from the church that she didn't go. By noon, they're here, they get here, they call authorities, and the investigation begins. Now, if you have any questions, please drop them in the comments. I'll be happy to answer. They gave a lot of information, but they didn't have a very big update when it comes to the investigation. They kind of explained some things. They explained why the FBI was here and why they had other agents came back here when the scene had been cleared. They were here yesterday. We saw them putting up police tape and such. They said they did that because now they're working in partnership with other agencies, and those agencies had questions as well. So let me know if you have any questions that I can answer. Has the good question. Has the family been back to the house since it became a crime scene? If they have, we have not seen them, and we don't know. From what we understand, the family is gathered at Annie's house. This is Savannah Guthrie's sister. She lives, we drove it the other day. It's a 10-minute drive, 4.5 miles. and they're gathered there. From what we understand, because the FBI acknowledged today that they did assist with that video recording, that heartbreaking video recording that we saw Savannah, her sister, and her brother do, that they assisted with some of the technology and some guidance there, but it was up to the family to do it, and it was their writing and all. That's where they are. Have they been here? We don't know if they have. I mean, if you think about it, we're all here. So if they do come here, they'll see all of us, and that's been really difficult for them as well. Any other questions? They have been asked about tire. Okay, the question is, have they checked tire tracks in the front of the house? Have they been to the back of the house? We know investigators were there. When they came back, they were in the back area tracking the area. They were here for quite some time. And there were different agencies here all collecting different types of information. Tire tracks, the sheriff was asked about tire tracks earlier. He said they were looking at them, but they haven't given us any indication of what they got from that. One other thing. They talked about the blood. So there's blood droppings that are on. If you look behind me, you can see the door, and then right there on the floor, right in front of the door, there are a lot of drops of blood. And they did DNA testing on that. They have confirmed that that is Nancy Guthrie's blood. They did not say that they found any other DNA from any other people there at this time, but they said they're also still working on test results, and some of that could take days. So again, the sheriff and the FBI both asked whether or not, the question was, are they interviewing the family as any suspects or anything like that? So what they're doing right now is, they said, is very specifically, we're not ruling anybody out. They're talking to everybody who had a connection to Nancy Guthrie that they were aware of, and that goes for family, but that also goes for the Uber driver who took her to dinner, that goes for the person who works on the pool, that goes for the landscaper, it's the gardener. Everybody who's been connected to her is getting asked questions. So there was a question at the news conference regarding Savannah Guthrie's brother-in-law, Annie's husband, because there's been a lot of speculation in the media revolved around him. Right now, whenever the sheriff is not answering that question, they're saying we don't have a suspect, but we're not ruling anybody out. So they're saying both things at the same time. You know, we're not ruling anybody out. Everybody is possible, but also we don't have any suspects. And some of this we don't know. Is it just them holding it close to the vest? They're protecting the investigation. It's their right to do that, because ultimately the most important thing isn't giving us the information, it's getting this woman back to her family. But right now, everyone's asking that question, and we don't really have a direct answer. So right now we do know, okay, the question is, sorry, I keep forgetting to tell you guys the question. The question is, do they know if she had a cell phone or a cell phone on her at the time? And we were told early on in this investigation that her cell phone and her wallet and her Apple Watch were all left here at the house. We also know that the FBI has specialists who are working on cell phone data. They're looking at the technology. There's a lot of technological forensic analysis being done right now. But as far as we have been told, she did not have a cell phone with her at the time. But they're looking at everything. You know, they're cell towers. They're checking everything they possibly can. But the direct answer to the question regarding the cell phone, from our understanding, what we've been told by authorities, is that her cell phone was found here at the house. Okay, the question is, did the ransom note detail where the money should be dropped off? And I'll tell you, our own Paul Morrow asked that question at the news conference, and they did not explain in detail how the money was supposed to be transferred to somebody else. But from what we heard from TMZ is that they were given a Bitcoin address to send the money to, and that address was valid. The FBI and the sheriff today didn't go into details on that. And they also did say, interestingly, is that they weren't given any kind of communication option in order to get back to whoever wrote this ransom note. So they're waiting to be contacted. Okay, well, I want to thank you so much for joining us. I will tell you, the sheriff and FBI said they aren't going to have any more news conferences, which is unusual, until there is a development. So when we have a development, we will bring it to you. Thank you. Okay, great.